Pablo Escobar was making ridiculous money, $420 million each week, by smuggling cocaine from the jungles of Colombia.
For decades, people heard the same story. Pablo Escobar died on a rooftop. His empire collapsed, and whatever secrets he left behind disappeared with him. It sounded final, clean, complete. But the story never truly added up. Too much money vanished without a trace. Too many rumors pointed to hidden vaults sealed under his estates. And whenever investigators searched those properties, strange clues surfaced. Ledgers, weapons, reinforced chambers. Hints of something far bigger than anyone expected. Then one vault was finally opened, and what emerged challenged everything we thought we knew about Escobar's world. It makes you wonder, if this is what one vault held, what else is still buried beneath the places he ruled? To uncover that answer, we need to return to where it all began. The rise of Escobar. Pablo Escobar did not begin as a powerful criminal. He began as a poor teenager in Medellin, growing up in a city filled with inequality, corruption, and limited opportunity. From an early age, he learned that rules protected the powerful, not the desperate. So he chose another path. His first crimes were small but revealing. He stole tombstones from graveyards, erased the names, and sold them back to families who did not know the truth. It was simple, cruel, and effective. That pattern would follow him for the rest of his life. Find a weakness, exploit it, move on without regret. As he grew older, his crimes escalated quickly. Car theft turned into extortion. Extortion turned into kidnapping. Violence became routine. By the early 1970s, Escobar was already known as someone who could not be trusted and could not be stopped easily. Victims were taken for ransom, and even when money was paid, many were still killed. Fear became his reputation, but everything changed when Escobar discovered cocaine. At the time, cocaine demand in the United States was growing fast. Few people understood how big the market would become, but Escobar saw it clearly. He began building smuggling routes, first small, then larger, using planes, boats, and corrupt officials to move drugs north. When he was caught transporting cocaine in the mid-1970s, he did not slow down. He learned a different lesson. Money could erase problems, and violence could erase people. Police officers were bribed. Judges were threatened. Rivals were removed. Anyone who refused was given a simple choice: take the money or take the bullet. That rule became the foundation of his power. With money flowing in, Escobar began buying influence. He funded politicians from different parties, supported local projects, and presented himself as a man of the people. In poor neighborhoods, he built houses, football fields, and schools. To many, he looked like a hero. To others, he was already a warning. By the late 1970s, Escobar helped form what became known as the Medellin cartel. Together, they moved massive amounts of cocaine into the United States. The profits were beyond anything Colombia had ever seen. Escobar was no longer just a criminal. He was a system. But success created a new problem that no amount of violence could solve: the money explosion. By the early 1980s, the Medellin cartel was moving cocaine on an industrial scale. Planes left Colombia daily. Ships crossed the Caribbean. Even remote islands and jungle airstrips became part of the supply chain. Cocaine flooded into the United States, and the demand kept rising. The numbers were hard to understand. The cartel was earning hundreds of millions of dollars every week. Cash arrived faster than it could be counted. Counting machines overheated. Workers made mistakes. Bags of money piled up in warehouses with no clear plan for where they should go next. Escobar's personal fortune grew into the tens of billions. Forbes listed him among the richest people in the world. Yet almost none of this money could safely enter banks. Deposits raised suspicion. Transfers left paper trails. Every dollar placed in the system increased the risk of exposure. So, the money stayed physical. Stacks of cash-filled rooms. Warehouses were used only for storage. Entire houses were converted into holding spaces for currency. The cartel spent thousands of dollars each month just on rubber bands to hold the bills together. Even then, the money decayed. Rats chewed through bundles. Moisture ruined stacks of cash. Millions were lost each year, and no one cared. Money became so common that it lost meaning. At one point, while hiding with his family, Escobar burned millions of dollars just to keep his daughter warm during a cold night. It was faster than finding firewood. That moment showed how far reality had shifted. With wealth came expansion. Escobar bought estates, mansions, and land across Colombia and beyond. These properties were not just homes, they were tools. Each one served a purpose in protecting the money and the people behind it. But owning land was not enough. The real challenge was keeping everything hidden, secure, and unreachable at the same time. That need quietly shaped what came next. Too much cash. That need forced Escobar to rethink how money itself was handled. Banks were no longer an option. Every deposit risked attention from authorities in Colombia and the United States. Financial records could be tracked, frozen, or used as evidence. Even trusted accountants became liabilities. Escobar understood that the safest place for his money was not inside the system, but outside of it. So the cartel turned to physical storage. Cash was packed into plastic, wrapped in tape, and sealed in barrels. It was hidden behind false walls, under floors, inside ceilings, and beneath farmland. Entire rooms were designed only to hold money. Some houses looked ordinary from the outside, but inside, the walls were thickened to create hidden compartments filled from floor to ceiling with bills. This created new problems. Paper money does not last forever. Rats chewed through stacks. Mold spreads quickly in humid areas. Water leaked into barrels buried underground. Escobar's brother Roberto, who managed the cartel's accounts, later admitted that nearly 10% of the stored cash was lost every year to decay alone. That meant billions of dollars were destroyed without ever being used. Still, the flow of money never slowed. Warehouses filled faster than they could be emptied. Safe houses doubled as vaults. Rural farms became storage zones, with barrels buried across large fields, so no single loss would matter. Some locations were known only to one person. Others were shared among trusted members, though trust itself was always limited. It required constant movement. Money was shifted between sites at night, carried in convoys that avoided patterns. Drivers memorized routes, burned maps, and never returned the same way twice. Even so, mistakes happened. A single arrest, a single whisper, could expose a cache and erase millions overnight without warning whatsoever. As the storage system expanded, so did Escobar's paranoia. He trusted no bank, no government, and very few people. Records were kept in coded ledgers and hidden notebooks. Locations were memorized, not written down. Many hiding places were created without maps, making them difficult to recover late, even for the cartel itself. At the same time, Escobar began designing properties with security in mind. Thick concrete walls, reinforced doors, and hidden rooms became common features. Some estates were rumored to include tunnels and escape passages, allowing movement without being seen. Money, weapons, and documents were often stored together, turning these sites into both vaults and defensive positions. This approach blurred the line between storage and survival. The money was no longer just wealth. It was protection. It was leverage. It was proof of control, but it also became a burden. The more Escobar hid, the more he feared losing access to it. Each cache had to stay secret, even from allies, which made recovery harder over time. As pressure from the government increased, raids became more frequent. Properties were searched. Walls were broken. Land was dug up. Authorities found fragments of the hidden fortune, but never enough to explain the scale of what was missing. This raised a troubling question. If so much money was hidden, and only small pieces were ever found, where was the rest placed? That question pushed investigators to look deeper, beyond houses and fields, towards structures built specifically to disappear wealth. The hidden vaults. That search led authorities to places that were not meant to be found. As raids continued, investigators began noticing patterns. Some properties showed signs of reinforced construction that served no normal purpose. Walls were thicker than needed. Floors sounded hollow. New concrete covered older sections without a clear reason. These details pointed to spaces designed to hide more than people. Escobar had ordered vaults built into his properties from the start. These were not safes placed in rooms. They were rooms themselves. Hidden behind concrete walls, beneath staircases, or under courtyards. These spaces were sealed to look like part of the structure. Once closed, they were almost invisible. The goal was simple: delay discovery long enough for the trail to go cold. Inside these vaults, storage followed strict rules. Cash was wrapped in layers to block moisture. Weapons were packed separately. Documents were sealed in waterproof containers. Everything was arranged to be moved quickly if needed, or abandoned without regret. One of the most important sites was Hacienda Nápoles. On the surface, it looked like a private estate with animals, lakes, and open land. Underneath, investigators later found hidden chambers built with reinforced concrete. These spaces were not added later. They were part of the original design. Similar structures appeared in other locations. Urban apartments contained hidden rooms behind false walls. Rural farms had sealed pits beneath storage sheds. In some cases, vaults were placed close to water or heavy soil to make digging harder and scanning less effective. The design showed careful planning. Escobar did not expect to win forever. He expected to survive longer than others. The vaults were insurance. If one location was lost, dozens remained. It was a quiet war of concealment. Every wall poured thicker, every floor reinforced deeper, every corridor measured twice. Builders were paid in cash and knew only their task, never the purpose. When finished, they left with no plans, no names, and no reason to return ever again after completion. Over time, many of these hiding places were forgotten. People who knew their locations were arrested, killed, or disappeared. Without maps or records, even Escobar's closest circle could not recover everything. After his death, the mystery deepened. Authorities opened some vaults and found only fragments. Others were empty. A few had been cleared before the raids arrived. Each discovery confirmed the same fact. The system was larger than any single site. This raised a simple but unsettling question. If these vaults were built to outlast him, how many are still sealed today? That question pushed investigators to focus less on Escobar himself and more on what his hiding places still contained. What was found inside? That shift in focus led investigators to answers they could finally touch. When sealed vaults were opened, the contents showed that Escobar had hidden far more than money. Many of these spaces had been prepared to support the cartel during emergencies, not just to store